Hello. Yeah. Oh, hello. Yeah. Okay. So I know what I said. I said no more puns, didn't I? I said no more puns just the other day. But could you sit on this story and not go with it? Not. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. The ward doctor would have my knackers for earrings, wouldn't he? Fortunately, he's not here, but I am. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. I'll find out who you are in a moment or two, I've no doubt. Welcome back to Type 40 for another exclusive live stream. Lunchtime live stream. Well, I say lunchtime. Depending on when you're watching it, isn't it, really? You could be catching up in the future or in the past. Yeah, the puns aren't going to get any better, and neither do the dad jokes. Take pity on an aging Doctor Who fans. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Check you're still subscribed if you think you're subscribed, because YouTube can be a little bit funny like that. And hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications, because stuff like this could pop up at any time. I've just got done in the gym. I thought not only that may have tired me out, but I thought it might have got all this out of my system. It hasn't really. There's still plenty to talk about as we limber up in a different way, in an intellectual and conversational way. Here on Type 40, we've got a live chat already. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. And we'll wait for a few more to fall in, I think. Still recovering, of course, from Christmas and New Year. Well, I am. Can't speak for you. Obviously, results may vary and all that. And I do have a playmate this time too to bring on, and we're going to exchange some pleasantries and swap some stories from the trenches of not just Doctor Who fandom, but of Christmas and New Year as well. He's here. I think he's all set up. I think he's as ready as he'll ever be. He's all plugged in, and he looks reasonably decent, if not correct. But you can't have everything, can you? Welcome back. Welcome back, David.
Hello. Yeah, one could say I am present. But I don't know if anyone's in, to be fair. The lights are on at no one home. But yes, I admire your preparations for a live stream. I sadly just flushed down the toilet Picard seasons 1 and 2, but there you go. But
Deliberately?
Yeah, my usual midday ablutions. There you go. But there you go.
You know, you're bound to get a knock at the door.
Talking crap.
But, you're bound to get a knock at the door for that kind of behaviour, you know, from the Severn Trent water where I am. I don't know who it is where you are.
Oh, we've got Anglian. So, Anglian. Yes, Anglian water.
Yeah, they sound like bastards as well to me.
They are, actually. They come round like little knights, silver knights rotating.
Do they really?
Yeah, like the old TV.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better. So I haven't spoken to you. Well, I have spoken to you, but I haven't actually spoken to you, David. You know, we have technically, officially kind of communicated, haven't we? But I'm not going to say Happy New Year. I'm just going to welcome you back to the channel. How was your Christmas and New Year? And are you warming up nicely?
It was lovely, actually. Spent with all the family and extended family of both my good lady and myself. And I ate well. Not unhealthily. I ate well. I went twice round Ascot racecourse. I was a 4-1 rank outsider. And at the end of it,
it's a terrible joke, but I'm laughing anyway.
Yeah, I know. But I made it eventually. Had caused controversy in the annual family quiz, because I was quizmaster, and I was using prepared, pre-prepared questions that somebody had bought me. So obviously, it was boys against girls, shall we just say, men against women, and there was some questionable scoring going on by the chat, shall we just say, which I can't condone. However, they won, much to the, and that then started a riot, as you can imagine.
What else is Christmas for if not to annoy one's kith and kin?
Yeah, absolutely. I watched the Joy to the World with my in-laws and my lovely wife.
Are they still talking to you after that?
They just looked at me at one point and just went, "He's not liking it. He's not liking it because I was there just with a glare on my face, going, and then we all loved Wallace and Gromit afterwards.
Well, this is it, isn't it? Because
Gavin and
obviously,
Stacey.
that's the joys of Christmas TV, isn't it? The joy.
yeah.
I mean, I do keep a general eye because I don't watch television. I haven't got a TV license. I don't watch television, conventional television anymore. But I do catch up with a lot of it on Christmas Day. Used to be addicted to EastEnders. Now I catch it once a year on Christmas Day when I'm visiting relatives, just to find out who's fallen down the stairs this year on Christmas Day, because that always happens. Yeah. You'd think by now they would have just sort of demolished Albert Square and just put all bungalows in, wouldn't you? Because it would
absolutely, yes, absolutely, and because that would be the best Christmas Wolford ever had. If
no stairs, no problem, no debt, no more debts.
Absolutely, although they would make them vulnerable to an invasion from Russell T Davis's Daleks, though, or pre-Russell T Davis, pre-remembrance of the Daleks.
I don't think we're not seeing any signs of the Daleks turning up anytime soon. Of course, the first time that you came on the show, we caused. We caused great controversy, if you remember, by actually opening up the conversation of ratings to other opinions or other perspectives. Because you are a statistician, aren't you?
I've forgotten more than most people will ever know.
Well, I was going to ask you about this. If this popped up, I was going to ask you about this, because I do have the official top 10 here for Christmas Day. And obviously, as Doctor Who fans, we are obsessed with ratings, aren't we?
Yes.
So this is how it all figured out by the finish. So we have the overnight audience there, and the consolidated figure, the final consolidated figure there at the end too. Doctor Who figured in this pretty high on the Christmas Day TV ratings. Obviously, attention focuses on the actual numbers, doesn't it, within the Doctor Who community? Within the broadcasting community, and it's slightly different. And as regards advertising, because that's predominantly why these figures are retrieved, isn't it, for advertising purposes, it didn't quite play out that way. So what is your take on the rating situation? Did Doctor Who figure higher or lower than you were expecting? And as a statistician and as a big old geek, was this about what you expected?
I actually did a bit better than what I was expecting, to be fair.
Yeah, me too.
But the one thing that's interesting, I'll try not to get so boring that I said I talk the glass eye to sleep, but I'll try and give a shortened down version. When we've compared ratings to, say, ratings even 20 years ago, statistically, they're not very comparable because, well, you can compare them, but when you try and use them in an argument,
context is king, isn't it?
Yeah, you sort of lose your way, because in order to successfully statistically compare something or analyze, you need the variables to be the same. So, for example, I got into a discussion on our lovely friend Ian's Facebook group, where
Ian Levine,
where somebody tried to go after me with that very same argument, claimed that they were an economist, and without knowing my qualifications, suggested I go on a basic statistics course. Well, the wonderful, lovely thing about economists is that they always ruin things, and they have got so many different wonderful things and wonderful ideas, like Rachel from accounts, for example, at tanking things. He then suggested I go on a basic stats course, which for him, he kind of lost the argument, really, because that's my expertise, of which I kindly pointed out to him and suggested that I'd forgotten more than he'd probably ever know. And it comes down to variables. And this is my point, getting on to point. We can compare this year's figures to last year's figures because the way of measuring them remain the same. You've got your overnights, you've got your +7
consolidated,
and then you've got your +7 4 screens. Okay, so both were measured using those variables. So there is this theory, and I'm not quite sure how true it is, that with respect to overnights, you would expect long-running series to lose 15% year on year. Now, when you look at this year's overnights compared to last year's overnights, that is roughly around 15% that has gone down. Okay, so that is to be expected. So that's not a bad thing. What is interesting is that your +7.4 screens are down almost 2 million, which is a decrease of something like 34.5%.
That's pretty drastic, and in a market which we are told is expanding.
Correct. So that is the market that you would expect the figures to stay the same, at least, or increase, hopefully. So what you would expect normally is a lower overnight and a greater audience catching up. Now, what that says to me, if I was going to do a very back of the fag packet calculation on this.
Yeah, we only do back of the fag packet stuff here. This is Type 40, not Radio Free Scaro.
So basically what I would say is that a decrease of 34.5% is quite disastrous, really. It's nearly half, it's over a third. It's not good. And a lot of people, it means, and also importantly, if you click on something and watch it for 1 second, that counts as a view. Now, there have been other podcasters out there, other people in the expanded media.
Other podcasters? I don't believe this for a moment.
In the expanded media, of whom I don't really have a lot of time for, but have actually...
Please don't name names.
No,
life's too short.
I'm being very diplomatic, of whom have given the 5-minute breakdowns of Doctor Who. And what
seems a bit pointless to me.
Is a bit pointless, but it does evidence the fact that after
life's too short,
there's a big switch off, and then there's more and more as you go through up to a half an hour. More and more people are switching off than they are tuning in. And then in the last 5 to 10 minutes, because people are anticipating Wallace and Gromit, that gives it a boost.
See, I would imagine that all those fluctuations, sincerely, there aren't enough hours in the day for all that 5-minute talk. I think I'll leave that to the advertising industry, because that's really what it's there for. If Doctor Who fans want, obviously you do what you want. People should do whatever they like in their spare time. But I just don't dig that deep. It seems pointless to me. But partly because of this, because every single show, everything that's broadcast on TV, if you were to go 5 minutes for 5 minutes, there'd be fluctuations all over the place for any number of reasons. You really are digging yourself a hole with that kind of forensic analysis, I think.
Because I think that it's about.
I don't give a toss what anybody else is saying anywhere else.
I know you don't. And what I throw in that point, because I believe that you can go. Backing up what you're saying, you can go too much into things. You can analyze too much. And I think that is an analysis too much. And what it allows to is the theory that people could just leave.
I've never purported, and Type 40 has never purported to have some sort of crystal ball or to be like, to be the all-knowing oracle on any of this stuff. And quite frankly, I would argue that anyone, including those working within the industry, they don't either. They can look, they can generally predict, they can make some sort of informed opinions and chart things seasonally, but anything other than that, anybody who tells you that I knew this would happen, I knew that would happen, is talking out of their asses and just trying to inflate their own sort of ego or credentials.
And that is why we have the average, and that is why we concentrate on the average, because it allows for that fluctuation over a course of a program. And that's why the average is the gold standard, because it is wrong to draw inferences from 5-minute gaps, though there are people there that like using that argument. And I would say, go away, do some sums, work out the average, and then you can't start to predict, as you quite rightly said with your crystal ball, why somebody may flick in between channels, why somebody might do that. Somebody might go to the toilet. They might want to pause something. They might have to make a cup of tea. Somebody might fall down the stairs, like in Walford, and they have to go to their rescue. It's you are just drilling too deeply into the detail. But what is important for me is that 15% on overnights. Yeah, that's sound. That's absolutely fine. But the worrying metric for me is that consolidation, because that, yeah, you're playing with me now. That is.
I meant to go there.
It still doesn't make it any more interesting. But the funny thing is that important metric is that one with the arrow on the right of the screen. That is the worrying thing, that people, when they've not got a lot to do generally over Christmas and they've got time on their hands, have chosen to go, nah.
You see, for me, although I agree with all of that, and as you've quite rightly said, if they're signposting a way forward into the future, telling us what the future of broadcasting is going to be, and unarguably the way that we watch TV has changed. I don't think anybody can reasonably state otherwise now. But for all of this forecasting and preparing us for the future and streaming platforms and Hooniverses and catch-ups and this and that and the other, if it's not growing over that period, then we have a problem. I mean, I think there is something to be said for the fact that when we look at this chart, and there are only 3 things broadcast on Christmas Day that more people watched across television than Doctor Who. That can't be completely discounted and discarded as meaningless. And one of them was, I think nobody really expected Gavin and Stacey to do as well as it did. I thought it would probably do quite well, but not that well, if I'm honest. I imagined that Wallace and Gromit would top everything. I knew that would trounce everything. I didn't think Gavin and Stacey would. And Call the Midwife being bigger than Doctor Who. Call the Midwife's been bigger than Doctor Who for quite a long time now. It pretty much took over as the most popular drama on TV from Doctor Who. No, from Downton, actually. I think Downton took over from Doctor Who, and then Midwife took over from Downton. So, generally speaking, I think this could look a lot worse. It's just, I try to resist going back to 2007 and saying, but Voyage of the Damned got this amount of people watching, because it's not that it doesn't matter. It's just that Voyage of the Damned, that would, more people still watch Gavin and Stacey than watch Voyage of the Damned. And I think Wallace and Gromit is around the same, isn't it? So, what are we saying? It's, you can only go so far with these things.
It's top 5, and what will be interesting to see, and I don't have the figures. I said,
we both said, David, I'm amazed this many people watched it.
Yeah,
I am amazed.
What will be interesting to see is where it came in the top 20, because I know certainly Death in Paradise beat it in that week's worth of in that.
I haven't got the top 20 for that week, but I have got. I didn't know if we were going to touch on this, but we may as well now we're here. I have got the top 10 shows for December, for the entirety of December. And you see that, so Doctor Who is in at 10. Strike is directly above it with that Death in Paradise Christmas special figuring at number 8. Death in Paradise is undoubtedly one of the biggest shows on television, drama-wise, isn't it?
Absolutely. I love it. And it's
I've never seen it.
It's wonderful. It's a murder of the week set in a Caribbean island, and it's got the lovely Don Washington as the commissioner of police there. And
but if we look above where that is, you've got another returning sitcom in Outnumbered that's called The Midwife we've already mentioned. The other shows that are there, that sort of block of shows, are all kind of reality shows. So the landscape isn't that different. Doctor Who is kicking around. There's not a great deal of difference there between the figure that Doctor Who got and the figure on Strike. Quite a big jump for Death in Paradise. I didn't know that Strike was that popular. I mean, it does look like a really quality show. I just don't watch many crime shows. They tend to bore me a little, but perhaps I should give that a look. But again, 10th in all of December. the busiest TV month of the year, I don't think this is to be sneezed at either. But of course, people are locked in the house, aren't they? They can't go out. It's too bloody cold out.
It is. But, you know, these are some really good figures. And Doctor Who sneaking in at the top 10, wonderful.
Yeah, so obviously that it could be better. It could be a lot worse. If this doesn't...
And that's the thing. And a lot of people will say, well, back in the day that Doctor Who didn't even get into the top 100 some weeks. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
That doesn't warm your cockles. I don't know what will.
My grandma had a fire like that. My grandma had a lovely. I remember sitting in in front of one of those fires in around 1979, 1980 in my grandma's house. Interestingly enough, she had that carpet as well. But you know, it is okay. Okay, so for the people I don't think the figures warrant the executives going at the BBC, right, we're going to cancel this now based on viewing figures. It does not warrant that. If
something is figuring fourth in the TV ratings, they're not, you know, you cancel something editorially because of one thing or another, but they're not going to cancel it based on these stats, are they?
No, and that's the thing, Dan. It's with all the people saying cancel Doctor Who because the ratings are poor. Well, you know, fourth on Christmas Day, you know, you're not going to cancel the King's Speech every year because he didn't come first. You know, it's not going to happen. And with respect,
they're certainly not going to cancel. They're certainly not going to cancel Strictly Come Dancing, and that figure's way further down. It's so talked about. I mean, when people talk to me about it, you know, you're just making excuses for it. You're doing this. You're doing. I'm not, but I believe that Doctor Who has many problems at the moment, and it has bigger problems than the ratings of all the problems that it's got.
It has problems editorially, as you said. You're not going to cancel something. You can cancel something editorially. It has problems with its identity. It has problems with the quality of scripts. It just seems that it doesn't know where it wants to go. It has problems with the same sort of ideas being rehashed. It has problems with its lead character crying all the time and not actually evoking a character that is that not invoking the character of, I think people call it being doctorish. He is not.
It all points to the same thing, David. I think it's a crisis of identity, and I don't mean the kind of identity as in who is Mrs. Flood. Has this been keeping you awake at night since we last spoke? Who is Mrs. Flood?
Quite honestly, I can say no. To be fair, I don't think Mrs. Flood even knows who she is. I think she's just a kind of sweet lady who's probably had one too many gin and tonics.
She did put out a cracking Christmas song years and years ago.
Do you know what? You never saw her and Brian May together at the same time, did you? In the 80s. She had a number one hit with the Anyone Can Fall in Custard, with the Simon May Orchestra and the theme from EastEnders, and she was a phenomenal star, very, very good actor, or if I'm going too PC there for people, sorry, actress, actress, I'm not quite sure what it is, so I'll say both so as not to upset people.
It's actress. She's a woman. It's an actress.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Very good actress.
I'll say it even if you won't. She's an actress.
Well, I didn't know what the accepted terminology was. It's very good actress. Did that episode of EastEnders on Christmas Day? Still one of the, if not the most watched drama episode ever. With Merry Christmas, Ange. You know, and to be fair,
Great stuff.
I care not for Mrs. Flood, just as long as she is not the guardian of chaos. Don't get me started.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we'll sleep on that. We'll sleep on that for the time being. Yes, I wondered if we get stuck into ratings. We have in the end, but it does figure quite nicely into what we've generally got to talk about on this lunchtime edition of the show. I did want to mention this though, because I was on a couple of days ago, and as I was live, people were mentioning that Aniki Wills. I'm never sure how to pronounce this. Aniki Wills. Is it Annika? Is it Annika?
I'll go for Annika, like in Challenge Annika.
Annika, yeah. Let's stick with it. Because it's spelled differently, you see, so I'm always wondering.
Yeah.
So, yes, Annika Wills had been at the Epsom convention, Who at the Playhouse, and apparently she'd confirmed that the next animated classic was going to be The Smugglers, the late William Hartnell story. And people were confident of this in the live chat, but there's been an update on this story since we last spoke. The actress herself has issued this statement over on her own social media through her handlers. Because they have handlers, these actors, don't they?
They do.
So here we have from the official Annika Wills account. Annika has heard on the grapevine there were a number of rumours that she said that Doctor Who The Smugglers was being animated. Annika says that is not what she said. The Smugglers is her favourite story, and she hopes it will be animated, but has no idea if it will be. So don't believe everything you read on the internet, advises Annika there. So who are we to argue with Polly, David?
Absolutely not. And there she is in a picture pointing out that cobweb that the Doctor and Ben have failed to find when dusting. As my wife constantly does with me. What cobweb? But yeah, absolutely. The thing is, people now with the internet report what they want to hear, not what they've actually heard. So she could have said, I love The Smugglers, I really love it, and I hope it's going to be animated. Oh, and Annika wishes, she said The Smugglers is going to be animated. Well, no, I'd like it to be animated. Of course she would, because she'll get residuals from it, and it'll get to be some of her work presented that she did that was sadly deleted and not available anymore. So of course she wants it presented, because she wants us all to see it, because it makes sense. She doesn't know what's going to happen in the BBC when it comes to their sales department and saying, right, we're going to release this next, release that next.
I mean, as I understand it, I'm not a very impatient, but when it comes to this stuff, it's like with the Blu-ray box sets, David. I'm happy to get whatever we get in the order that we get them. It's fine. And it's the same with this stuff. I would imagine they intend on animating everything. And generally speaking, I do think they're perhaps starting to look a little old-fashioned, because they've been making them the same way mostly the same way for a few years. But I'm quite happy. Generally speaking, I actually don't agree with Ian Levine on this. I think the standard of them generally is quite good for what they are. But I think that they could do with quickening the pace a little bit, because by the time they're completed, we'll be at a place where the stuff that Ian Levine is doing with animated, assisted, artificial intelligence assisted recons is kind of going to overtake it a little, I think, by the time this range is completed. And that's a pity. And they probably should have. But I understand the pitfalls that they've faced in putting out this line, because they have such limited appeal. But I want Annika to get all the material out. Of course I do. I think we all just want nice things, don't we?
It would be lovely. And it would just... I remember there's a wonderful picture that has always been published from the strugglers, from the smugglers.
The strugglers. That's something. I've seen that website.
The strugglers and the smugglers. I'm getting struggling with my smuggling.
Yeah, that's the new book by Neil Gaiman. The strugglers.
That picture of Bill Hartnell face to face with the baddie, chin to chin, just giving it that sort of look. And I like the Savages. I've always wanted to see that. Always wanted to see that because of course we say goodbye to Stephen in the Savages, and I think
if you've got a favourite character or something, somebody from, even if it's from an era that you didn't watch live, you've just read about them, or you've seen the entry where the story, where they joined the cast, you think, well, I wonder how they left, and it doesn't exist. It's it's always niggling at you, isn't it?
And I think, the rapport that obviously between Stephen and the Doctor, which was obviously the same sort of great affection between Bill and Peter Purvis. I love that rapport that they have, and I do love, considering how ill he was, the fact that Bill Hartnell still delivers fantastic performances has just got to be so admired, because I mean, what must it have been like for somebody, such a proud actor and such an adept actor, to be losing their ability to learn their lines and still turning up week after week after week and recording stuff as live, without the ability of retakes, to still put in a fantastic performance.
It must have been really, really difficult. Before we get into the meat of the conversation this time, though, David, I want to check in with some of the people in the live chat, because people are watching and listening along over their lunch as of time of streaming. Obviously, by the time you catch up with us, it could be later on in the day, or it could be the middle of the night. But don't snack in the middle of the night; it's terribly bad for you. Hi, Dan, says Stephanie Barrett. Midnight here in Hobart, Tasmania. Good to see you, Stephanie. And we've got a greetings from Rob Alexander too, and a hi everyone from Lord Thoth. Good to see a few people here. Afternoon, everyone from Woodhouse 122. Good to have you back, Woodhouse. And when a bunch of Wallace is there too, and says, I bet the Disney Plus views are even more rubbish. Again, you see, hi bunch of Wallies. I'm going to have to start calling you Wally, aren't I? Hi, Wally. See, Wally is pretty black-pilled on this. I should say, we don't think those are rubbish, Wally. Sorry. I know that's the popular narrative. The figures aren't rubbish. I'm not saying that the episode wasn't rubbish. I personally thought it was. But the figures aren't rubbish. They're sort of okay. Sorry, they are. As for the Disney Plus figures, I've seen figures from Disney Plus, but realistically, again, anybody out here in the fan sphere who's saying that they can read all that stuff and all that kind of thing, take that with a pinch of salt. Only Disney really know, and anybody from that streaming world, only they know what their expectations are of the show and how they expect it to perform. So again, these are things that it's such an emerging culture, something specific to them. What they consider rubbish is in line with their expectations, which would be completely different, for example, the expectations of British advertisers on British commercial TV, and a world away from the expectations of something like the BBC, which is public funded. So I think we're talking about a different ballpark there. Rob Alexander is in the live. Is that total bollocks, David, or am I... You see what I'm saying?
No, not total bollocks. We do not know the metrics by what they consider to be a success or not. So to say otherwise, to start saying, oh, they're rubbish, we don't know what metric, we don't know what targets they've set. So it's not utter bollocks, it's absolutely the truth. Because how do we refer, I refer back to the answer you gave not so many moments ago with respect to the Type 40 crystal ball. We can't say the rubbish because we don't know.
Rob Alexander said BBC One had the highest figures for 2 shows on Christmas Day in years. Who was part of that? But the worry is the lower additional views, just as you said, David, in the subsequent 7 days. Last year, around 3 million was added. Yeah, are people prioritising catching up in any way? Heretic is there in the live chat too. Good to see you, Heretic. And we have Dogalov too. Dogalov? That sounds really bad. I can't approve, Dogalov. I can't approve.
We're getting a knock on the door from K9.
It says, hi from Las Vegas, Nevada. It's 5:30 a.m. here. You're going to get up for a run. Oh, you're going to go have a run around for a bit. So keep those comments coming, everybody. We're going to get into the bulk of it now, but obviously we want to know what you think too. Of course Dan, we do. And of course...
Can I just come back on that 3 million one? Because I think it's really, I want to try and make a really valid point here. So get my brain in gear. Right, absolutely right with respect to 3 million, almost 3 million. And the point is about the catch up. What we are talking here about is being entertained. Doctor Who is an entertainment show, like most of the stuff on TV, unlike the news or the stuff that claims to be factual. And I'll leave you to determine if it's not or the other way. But essentially, it's an entertainment business, just like watching sport is entertainment. If what you are serving up is not entertaining, then all you're going to get is the core fans and a few other, shall we give it another go? You miss out on those casual viewers, the casual attendees who want to be entertained. And if they haven't been entertained before, then they are not going to go back and watch the same thing again unless you market it and the trailers and everything is entertaining, or word of mouth. Oh, did you see this the other day? It was fantastic. Right, I must go and see the next one. If it's not, if it's a sporting event, I must attend. I must go. There is nothing there with drab entertainment to encourage people to continue with it. The casual people, the fans who've bought their season passes for shows or season tickets for stuff will generally go because they've paid for it and they attend out of desperation, out of pity, out of protest because they've paid for it and they're going. So when it comes to the sort of shows or sports matches or anything like that, but if it's not entertaining, if people have been switched off by poor quality previously, then they are less likely to make it appointment TV or even appointment catch-up TV because it's of no interest to them. It is not worth their time. And I think that is a possible interpretation as to why that figure may have fallen down from
I'd say, It seems reasonable. It seems logical, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It's human behaviour too. Human behaviour.
We vote with our feet. We become apathetic to it. And if it happens, it happens. And unless it's grabbing, unless it's, wow, have you seen this? This is fantastic. Gosh, I must tune into it then. Word of mouth.
Yeah. As I said, I believe that Doctor Who has far bigger problems than the ratings at the moment. We'll definitely come back to that at some point. As regards Wallace and Gromit, I think they were worthy victors there on Christmas Day. Gavin and Stacey haven't seen it, so I can't possibly say. But big fan of Wallace and Gromit. And I do love a Wallace and Gromit meme as well. Not generally speaking a meme person either, but I do love a Wallace and Gromit meme. And that does lead quite nicely into the next item that I wanted to talk about.
I'm a big fan. Thank you.
All right, good to see you.
Come on, man. Nice to meet you, mate.
All the best. Take care.
That's Doctor Who.
David Tennant. David Tennant, the Doctor Who for a whole generation of people, and twice over now, and a trendsetter now, it seems, too, because just as what David did. When was this? Nearly 18 months, 2 years ago, nearly 3 years ago since we saw him out recording it on the streets, his return to Doctor Who. So just as David returned to Doctor Who, so has another person returned to a different kind of office completely this week, at the start of this week. I'm talking, of course, of the presidential inauguration. I can never say inauguration properly. Is that kind of right, isn't it? Inauguration, which took place at the start of the week, provoking all manner of responses, I think, all across the map. Generally speaking, I found it really inspiring, I have to say, particularly the speech. Fascinating to watch, too. I'd never seen anything. I don't think I'd ever sat and watched anything of that nature before from another country. I watched it streaming. And I thought it was. I found it inspiring and stirring, and I'm a little bit envious, really, sat here at Britain. Donald Trump has become the 47th president of the United States. That was on Monday, January the 20th, 2025, and as ever, he had to recite the specific oath under the Constitution. And which is that's the one that spells it out, isn't it? That I have to solemnly swear that I faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and all that kind of thing. So it's all very official, all very grand, and historic, I think, David. This is the kind of stuff, pomp and ceremony and history. This is the kind of thing that in Britain we preserve and sort of enact very well, isn't it? But America do it pretty well as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and we do it solemnly, I like to think. And the Americans, isn't it wonderfully camp?
They do it with gusto.
So wonderfully gusto and camp, and it's with knobs and bells on. It really is. It's just wonderful to see. All that sort of ceremony, and for a lover of ceremony like I am, it's sort of like it's wonderful. I often wonder what the Americans, their treatment of an open bus tour would be following the winning of the FA Cup. It would be just sort of spectacular, and that presidency inauguration is absolutely a wonder to watch. And I saw some a press conference afterwards where he answered questions from journalists, and it was just, people portray Donald Trump as being this thick, stupid individual who comes out with nonsensical stuff. Right. I'm going to nail my colours to the mast. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with some of his policies.
Can you think of a single person in the world that you do agree with everything they say, whether it's somebody, a public figure, or somebody you know in your personal life? I can't.
No, and that's a really
David,
good thing.
I don't agree with everything I say.
I can't even remember what I say, Dan. So I don't. I mean, and what I do say in error, I generally apologise for. But the thing is, his sole concept is the fact that he is fed up of what he's trying to say to the voters and the public, who voted him in droves from across all cultures, from across all races, from across all ages.
It was pretty unanimous, wasn't it? I mean, I'm no political commentator, but anybody can see it was pretty unanimous. And they voted for things like a healthy economy, fewer wars, more the return of free speech, and little things like that. Things that we're big fans of here at Type 40. Always have been very pro free speech and free thinking too. But what I enjoyed about this ceremony, I think, and what I never appreciated, never having really watched one before and taken notice, David, was that all the previous, obviously the still living presidents were there too. Everybody else who'd had that office were there, no matter what their politics. Now, I'm sure that there are lots of, how can I put this, conflicted views amongst that set of individuals. But the fact that they were all there to watch history being observed in a kind of polite, historic way, I thought it was, I don't know, I just was quite stirred by all of that as well. Apparently it usually happens outdoors, but I've never watched one before, so I found it really eye-opening, because I've never really taken a huge interest in politics abroad. I haven't got a vote, I haven't got a dog in the fight, as they say. But obviously this time it's been slightly different because of the way the culture has been politicised. So my reaction to it has been very, very different. And reactions that have made my radar in its wake too have been some of them depressingly predictable. I think I'm talking about people from within the Doctor Who world, I suppose.
Well, they've always got to say something, haven't they? But they just can't keep the gob shut. But a bit like Gary Lineker on his Twitter account. But the thing is, I want Gary Lineker to tell me I want Russell T Davies to write me a good Doctor Who script and to produce a good Doctor Who script.
So does this guy.
I want him to put in a convincing performance. I want Gary Lineker to tell me if something's offside or not. That's what I want them to do. With the thing is with the American people, and it's something that what Robert Nixon said before he got into a bit of trouble. But he once said,
I like how you said that like Frank Spencer. You got into a bit of trouble.
bit of trouble, Betty. Sort of like, anyway. He got in a bit of trouble. And he said, you ignore, or words to the effect of, you ignore the man on the street to your peril, at your peril, because it's that silent majority. What he was inferring to was, if you put all your policies, if you write your dramas, if you present your whatever you want to present or whatever you're doing to a minority or 1% of the population or 0.5% of the population, you are effectively excluding 99 to 99.5% of the population who might not actually worry about that, or are actually worried about where their next paycheck's coming from, if the company they work for is going to go bust, if if they're going to get a good education, if they can go to hospital and actually get seen, if they can get a doctor's appointment, if they can get a dentist's appointment, ad infinitum. If you ignore those concerns, you ignore them at your peril. And if you just tailor everything for a minority, then you're going to end up in a much like how the Democrats have done, at a complete loss. You need to consider everyone, not just.
Well, if you tailor everything to a minority as well, you end up very much in a situation that this guy has with Doctor Who, increasingly in recent times. Russell T Davies, of course. I mean, the question that's preying on my mind over the last couple of days that I keep coming back to is simple, really. Are there any circumstances where it's okay for the showrunner of a huge family-orientated brand like Doctor Who to be swearing at members of the public, license fee payers, under any circumstances whatsoever on social media, regardless of how that person may feel about any social or political matter? That's where I am right now. I'm a huge Russell T Davies fan of decades standing. And even when he turns in material which could be found generally wanting, I usually find something to enjoy in it, and his take on the show is one that's always really appealed to me. And I've enjoyed most of his stuff outside of Doctor Who as well, David. But this kind of behaviour, we've seen it before, and it's manifest again this week over on his social media platform of choice. He's a big user of Instagram, Instagram is seen as the nicer one, isn't it? Because obviously it's picture orientated and people share pictures of stuff they like. More often than not, people are more inclined to share pictures of stuff that they like or that they hope will please other people. So I don't think that's necessarily at fault. I can see why anybody would sort of choose that. But Russell has posted this week in the wake of the inauguration. Obviously, we had the result of the election a couple of months ago now, so you'd think he would have gotten over it. But he posted this, an image that said it won't be like this forever.
Initially, I thought that was about Doctor Who, and I was quite happy. But,
that's the irony, isn't it? A lot of people would have felt that way.
And then I realised it wasn't, sadly.
This is lettering, this phrase. It's obviously desire to promote sort of resilience, isn't it? And to reach the disenfranchised. But he specifically timed this alongside the inauguration of the president. Doctor Who now has an international, global streaming home. The idea is that it will grow its audience all over the world, particularly regrow its audience in America, David, because it did very well there on Netflix over a decade ago, but it has slidden to the point where it is forgotten there now. So the American market is really important to it. And Russell T Davies is making his feelings known about their choice of who they want to take them forward certainly for the next 4 years, if maybe longer. They've made it very, very clear. And Russell doesn't seem to want to respect that, does he?
No. For me, I'd like him to keep his, but I keep my political views to myself. I keep my.
I've always tried to.
I always, and I don't tell anybody who I vote for. I will do if you ask nicely, but I wouldn't publicly.
Yeah.
And many people get it wrong all of the time, and what I will do is I'll give you a clue. I'm very centre ground liberal, you could say. So that's a bit of a clue as to the colour and the colour of the party. Oh, right, I'll be absolutely honest. See, I always vote for the Liberal Democrats, okay, because that's I've always done that, and I always probably will, even when it's quite a hard decision. So I'm not coming at this from a uber sort of left or right wing view. What I will say is that I'm a fundamental believer that that's my choice. I choose to put an X in the box against that choice. Wonderful. I don't let it interfere with my work. I don't let it interfere with who I support with respect to football, what I write in content online, what I've written before as a student journalist and a student editor. I've never let it influence what I broadcast on community radio or student radio. I will not let it do that. And it is never acceptable, ever, as a broadcaster, as a writer, as a public figure, to tell your audience on, especially if you're in charge of a family show, to do one in no uncertain terms, in a profanity, as we used to say in the phonetic alphabet, to Foxtrot Oscar.
Which is what Russell has done yet again here to Sandra Haddad. Yeah. I mean, that's the point. I mean, you could say that the kissing emoji implies a kind of a softening of that, but even so,
there's kids. He's got
form for. Yeah, exactly. He's got form for doing this. I just think it's a bit much. I mean, Russell T Davies is a public figure. It's not that I don't think he should be permitted his political views. I'd say he's a relatively political writer in some of the things that he's written in the past.
Totally. Absolutely. And nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever.
But people, emojis are open to interpretation, aren't they? F off is not open to interpretation.
No, it's not. It's like you know, it's like dropping a C bomb and then and giving a little cheeky wink after it. You know, sort of like, I'm sorry. You know, you don't come out with that sort of like. There's so many different ways he could have responded to that, and that would have reversed the narrative from criticism to, oh, there's Russell having a cheeky laugh, from a oh, I'm sorry, with a bit of a wink, you know, or oh dear, you know, oh dear, forgive me for commenting, sort of like, you know, not a just sort of like F off. Come on, man, you're better than that. You know, you are better than that. And if it's so upsetting to you that a man has become democratically elected by a majority of the population, not just on seats or electoral college votes, but on the popular vote as well, the fact that his party has won the Senate and the House of Representatives as well, which is exceptionally rare, because normally they get control of one or the other or none, but rarely both, and the popular vote and the college states, the college, the electoral college vote. It's very, very rare that happens. So
it's resounding, and it's clear, and it's clean. It's open and shut, and the American population, from what I've seen, there's been a lot less dissent this time compared to how there was in 2016 or even in 2020, 2021, whenever the previous election was. There does seem to be a case of, okay, this is generally speaking a way forward together. And here is Russell T Davies from Wales, from the Mumbles, who were the best one in the world. Who gives a shit what Russell thinks about any of this? He's not a resident in America. He's not an American citizen. So what has it got to do with him any more than it has you or I? But what doesn't sit well with me is this constant swearing. Regular swearing at the public, at the audience, on a public platform. Last year, somebody raised the fact pretty politely, somebody like a friend of a friend, somebody I'm acquainted with, somebody raised with him the fact that they were dissatisfied with how Doctor Who was at the moment. And this guy's like 20, 21. Yeah, perhaps he could have timed it better. He could have phrased it. He could. But Russell just dismissed it and literally just told him to fuck off as well. You know, which really upset this guy. And, you know, Russell is a public figure. He's supposed to be a representative of this show, of this brand, as well as himself. This is somebody who commands a huge amount of respect. From me, you know, I love his work. I've always respected him, always admired him. So telling guys to F off, like members of the audience on social media, and now doing this again, and then you've got his star telling anybody who's dissatisfied with certain aspects of the show, editorial aspects, or is enjoying it so much that they can go and touch grass as well. So it's all painting a picture of a whole culture of the show of people who just don't give a toss what the audience say, for better or for worse. It's like they're making it for them, and that's that. There were further exchanges on Instagram here. Somebody said to him, DJ Paulette said the next 4 years are going to be a challenge, and Russell said the fight is on, darling. I can imagine him saying that, the fight is on, kiss, 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 all that kind of thing. But the one that really made me laugh was this one from Carol Vorderman. Now, if you live abroad, you might not know who Carol Vorderman is. So
no.
She used to be popular like years ago. She was a mathematician and TV presenter on a quiz show called Countdown. And then she did a lot of lifestyle shows and things like that.
Dan, my degree is better than hers. I got a drinker's 2-2. She got a third.
You got a drinker's 2-2, is that?
Yeah, I got a Desmond, as they call it. It's a drinker's degree. Although I didn't drink, I just got elected to a union position.
Well, Carol stepped in on the subject of the inauguration and said, "Sadly, I believe it's a turning point, but it needn't have been. Here, only 52% of those who could have registered and voted did so in July." So I get the impression Carol has had a rude awakening here in British politics, but it's this. Russell says, "Oh, darling, so many fights to fight." And it's just the idea that these two, let's be honest, elitist types, these quite privileged people, setting themselves up as our betters, that we should be looking to Carol Vorderman for some sort of political leadership or idea of where it's going to go, and that her together with Russell T Davies, rate as a writer. Yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy. He seems like a nice family-orientated guy, but publicly, in this sense, he's behaving like an arse. So the idea that these two are going to sort of fight for the people in this way, we know what kind of fighting they're going to do. Nothing productive. It's all going to be this sort of armchair punditry, all based on their smartphones from the comfort of their very plush, no doubt, sofas in their gated communities, protected from the consequences of any of the crap that they come out with, all the identity politics, all the nonsense. No actual solutions for real problems that the general public face on a day-to-day basis, the things that worry us either financially or socially. These two are completely deluded about all of it. So, are you going to trust either of these two clowns to go to war on your behalf? Because I'm not.
I'm not, but I would pay hundreds of pounds to see that sitcom, Carol and Russ. If they don't like it, up them. But yes, of course. What I would say is, you are absolutely right when it comes to the privilege, and it comes to the fact that they won't do anything at all. Russell might write.
He'll sit there tippy-tapping away like this and lecturing everybody, telling everybody to fuck off when they don't agree with him.
From the very exclusive Mumbles area in Swansea, and he will be going this, that, and the other. And it's so disappointing. It is so disappointing that in a public forum of social media, that a man with such a wide grasp on the lexicon of the English language has resorted to a very, very cheap and off-put and just not appropriate response at all. And I thought he was better than that. I really did think he was better.
So did I.
And is just a shameful response. And the kiss, oh darling, sort of thing. It is that. And
we will overcome, darling. We will overcome. We go over the top. We get over the top. What a pair of clowns.
The thing is, I can imagine Kenneth Williams in a sort of in his diary writing something like that, because they're his private views, and his diaries were wonderfully bitter and wonderfully comical and wonderful in just every aspect of the term. But to put that out there when you're the head of a family show, just is he having some sort of crisis, a sort of late middle-age crisis? Are we going to see him on a sort of like Harley Davidson next, as a sort of like a Hell's Granny, as Monty Python once did? Are we going to see that? And when you're getting him agreeing with Carol Vorderman, I just think, oh my God, Carol,
could they be more pleased with themselves?
No, and it's that smugness. It's something that I hate, is smugness, and it is sadly everywhere now. It's Have I Got News for You has become very smug, even more smug than it used to, and it's this. David Tennant was very smug, and in trying to tell.
I'm going to say he's kept his mouth shut, hasn't he, lately? He hasn't said a bloody word publicly since Keir Starmer got in, started scrapping winter fuel allowances and doing other kinds of mad shit.
Absolutely not. And the thing is, and let's have actually drilled down as to what David Tennant did. He actually he asked, there's a man using a public platform to tell a woman that they should shut up, an elected representative of the United Kingdom, that he wished that she wasn't alive and that she should shut up. I mean, my goodness me, how prehistoric is that?
He wished her out of existence.
Yes. And one of my favorite pieces of social media, when Kemi Badenoch was elected as the leader of the His Majesty's opposition, fraudulent slip there, sorry, and was the fact that J.K. Rowling put out of a tweet basically saying, "I'm thinking of David Tennant right now. My thoughts go out to David Tennant
that was really funny.
At this difficult time." And I thought, wonderful, Joe, absolutely wonderful. And I do think that people in such a privileged position need to be aware of, whilst it's wonderful that they campaign for charities, it's wonderful that they campaign for causes. It's wonderful that they do that, because it is philanthropy at the end of the day. But then, because of that, they need to be extra cautious about what they say, and the fact that what they do say publicly as themselves, not written in a script or written as a comedy or presented however, because that can have huge connotations as to how people take things. And it's wrong if someone says, dear Russell, I'm not happy, as you mentioned, about the way that Doctor Who's going. I think this, I think that, I think that. Okay, all right, okay, well, let's have a discussion about this privately.
Would it surprise you to learn that, your reaction to this, it won't be like this forever? Does he mean Doctor Who? That a great many other people took the opportunity to jump on this after the fact as well, after he told that Sandra there to go and do one in no uncertain terms. He was met with this. Doctor Who fans or people certainly aware.
I haven't seen this. This is brilliant.
Aware of what was going on. So Eric Angel says, one more season and hopefully changing this sinking ship. Kirsty Wards from her bathtub, by the looks of things, says Doctor Who or the administration. Says who? Adds Joseph there at the top. And David's photos, there says me, when I realised that Doctor Who has essentially been run by a very exclusive little boys club for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
This is the kind of reaction. I think this is more than fair. I've enjoyed most of Doctor Who certainly from 2005 through to 2017. I loved it practically week for week. He's only got himself to blame for reaping these kinds of responses. Dissident 84 adds, this is what I tell myself about the current state of Doctor Who. It can't be dog shit forever. Kirsty's right been there with the chef's kit, and it just went on and on and on and on. I would imagine that he's probably had to dish out a few F-offs or just blocked a few more people, because he's blocked lots of people from the Type 40 community, some of whom simply because he doesn't like the cut of their jib, people who haven't actually said anything at all. So even though Instagram does have a reputation as being the nice one, how nice is it going to remain if people misuse it in the way that I think Russell is starting to? They're cackling away from the mumbles. He's not the man I thought he was. And I think it's pretty disgusting, to tell you the truth. I've run out of excuses to make for maybe it was a bad day, maybe this, maybe that. had a couple of months to get over this, Russell. Get a fucking life, grow up, and accept the fact that people have different opinions. And perhaps if you haven't got a voice, it's not that you shouldn't have your view. Of course, you should have your view, but maybe you should respect the view and the choices of others. But what do you think out there? Let us know in the comments section. By all means, we are all ears. And if you want to go and check Russell T Davies out on Instagram, don't harass the man by any stretch, but go and check it out on Instagram. Join the conversation. Join the conversation and have your say respectfully. I'm a lot more impressed with Stephen Moffat, who's also on Instagram. He put out this week in response to an article from the Radio Times suggesting that Doctor Who fans are begging for Stephen Moffat to return and write more. Really? After Joy to the World? Really? It was fucking awful. Yes, apparently, according to the Radio Times, Doctor Who fans, are you begging? Are you begging, David? Anybody begging? Hands up if you're begging.
No, I'm begging that he doesn't write for Doctor Who in the short term again.
I've got a lot of time for Stephen Moffat, and one of the reasons why I like him so much is the fact that he's quite self-effacing. Yeah. And but he put this on Instagram and said, "I'd like to thank all 12 of those people." No, I did count. So he takes it with a pinch of salt. He's able to laugh at himself. And this is what I like. This is how I like the people that I look up to be generous, to be human, to be mischievous, and I don't know, just to be a little less up their own arses, basically. David,
more self-deprecating,
a tall order, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so go and follow Stephen. You might want to unfollow Russell before he unfollows you. Would probably be my advice.
Can I have a caption of that photo, because I need a new darts board. But maybe you said he had a bad day. Maybe he watched Rogue for the first time.
He's had a lot of bad days lately. What do you reckon, Tom? Yep, maybe he saw Rogue. Oh God, we've got a few comments here in the live chat. So obviously we're rambling and ranting here live. Well, I think, am I ranting? Maybe, I don't know. Does this count as a rant? Thank you to Rob Alexander, Adrian Sherlock, Gregory Jones, John Middleton, and other people who've joined us here for lunchtime here at Type 40 with this casual conversation. Rob said political satire is one thing. I feel shows like Who should be an escape from the realities of world politics, not a grim reminder. That's beautifully put. Rob, I wish I'd said that, David.
Yeah, me too. I agree wholeheartedly. And I had been looking at Rob's stuff in the chat as well, and unfortunately I sparked off a bit of a football-related chat with you.
I can't take you anywhere. Gregory Jones says Dan is spot on. Whatever I said, obviously he's absolutely right. You come again, Gregory. Thanks for the comment. I don't know what I said. People talking about Blake 7. We'll have to leave that there for now. We've got more comments about Russian cinema. Okay, fair enough. But Adrian says the only thing I heard from Gatta was a complaint about white mediocrity. Yes, that was the particularly nasty one, I think.
Don't slag off your audience either.
Particularly for their immutable characteristics. I mean, that's a bad look, whoever's saying it, but from a black man. I mean, come on, Shooty. It's disgusting.
Could you imagine if that was the other way around? Could you absolutely imagine for 1 minute? The police would be involved, there would be outcry and everything like that. It's a two-way street. Come on. Of course it is. Be better than that, please.
There's a belief that non-white people can't be racist.
Absolutely wrong. I can tell you that for certain.
It makes you wonder what some people. If there are people who believe that, it's extraordinary. Yeah. Rob Alexander always preferred Stephen Moffat to Russell T Davies. I certainly prefer his social media activity by some considerable way. In fact, Stephen Moffat with a sense of humour and a little bit of humanity. Yeah. Adrian Sherlock said Joy to the World and Boom were not good, but they were not as bad as Russell T Davies' recent output. Again, as I always seem to say on these shows, I found the last season very middling. I enjoyed some of it. There was lots that I didn't enjoy, though, so I think results are going to vary on.
Ironically, the most watched episode was the one where he's hardly in it. So that's the lead character. And also,
Yeah.
Russell T Davies needs to realise that I think he does get it. I think he does get it because
I think he does as well. I think that's what all of this puff is about. Well, I mean, when I say puff, I mean like chest puffed up, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
all this
exactly
hot air.
This hot air, and because either he was writing with wonderful irony, or Dot and Bubble perfectly exemplifies what is going on with the show at the moment. They are living in their own bubble, and it was like sort of like, does he really get it? Is he actually laughing at us? Is he actually playing with us here? And maybe I'm being a little bit too sort of
you do have to wonder
about it, but it is almost as if the Dot and Bubble was an autobiographical piece of work, because there he is every day looking in his bubble and and yet he produces a piece of work saying how bad that is. I'm just questioning whether or not he's actually having a laugh with us, or he's actually laughing at us. I don't know.
It could be.
Back to that. I'd love to see that sitcom. Private Vorders and General Davies. It'd be like all you'd need is Windsor Davies as well in there, and it would be just, and Kenneth Williams, and it would be the perfect sitcom. And
Moffat on a bad day is better than Russell T Davies at the moment.
Yeah,
you know what? I think Joy to the World was pretty excruciating. In my view, I think I said the other day, I think they're both done with this. I think they're out of ideas, out of energy too. It really is time for them both to move on, to scroll on, Russell. Come on. And I think you certainly need to put the smartphone down and maybe go and touch grass. I don't know. Maybe take go and ask Shooty what you think you should do.
I've been listening to the Nest Cottage Chronicles.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, I like those.
On my walks recently. And Paul Mars, what a great storyteller. What an absolutely great storyteller. And
how is he never written for the show? It's baffling, isn't it?
Thank you. Telepathy was working. How can you have never written for the show? Because the plots are brilliant. There's fantasy.
He writes characters so beautifully.
Absolutely, and the character of Mrs.
Writes
Wibsey
and builds characters.
Yeah, and the character of Mrs. Wibsey is a wonderful character, and all the other characters are brilliant as well. And it's with real feeling, and you really invest in the characters. And you've got the lovely Tom and his hello old cock and stuff like this coming booming out the way that he says a baboon and bushy bearded lady and stuff like that. And but the thing is, what I think Russell and Stephen have burnt out. I think they have burnt out a bit, and I think
BBC's burnt out.
They've lost the ability to tell a story. And my English teacher, I don't know if she's still with us or not, the lovely Mrs. Rushforth, she was, oh my goodness me, if you didn't have if we were writing a piece of prose or something like that for English at GCSE, or an analysis of something, if it didn't have a beginning and a middle and end that fitted together seamlessly, you could go off on a tangent, but as long as you brought it back to the subject matter, that was fine. If it didn't have a beginning, a middle, and end, and it didn't make sense, she would give you 0 out of 40 for it. Absolutely ruthless. And we learned very quickly that in order for a story to make sense, whether it was a review, whether it was a piece of prose, whether it was an analysis of a particular text, we had to make it make sense. And I feel that they have lost the ability to make things make sense and are concentrating on, let's just throw loads of rubbish at the wall, hope that something sticks, and then press a big reset button at the end to make everything good again. And it becomes a formula, and it has become the formula. Like Sutek being dragged through the universe on a bloody dog chain. I mean, come on. You know, I mean, as soon as people died in that episode, I knew everything was going to get hit by the big reset switch, and it was a bloody chain. Okay. Walkies, you know, and I just thought, my God, how lazy this has become. And it is laziness. It is laziness. It's formulaic laziness. And it's got to change. It has to change that.
I think things have got to change. I mean, if you do scroll down Russell's Instagram, he mentions again to Carol Vorderman and others how they've got to level up and go to war. Level up. What's he going to do next? You know, who's he going to cast next? Things, you know, with this man in charge of Doctor Who, things could get progressively worse. Pun intended. Just at the point where every other fucker is giving this nonsense up. This story broke this week. Businesses face backlash for championing woke campaigns, says new report. DEI is being ditched practically across the board here. And it seems like the BBC, it's going to be the very last place that kicks in. And why is that, everybody? The same reason as always. It's because they're the ones, they've already got your money, but you do have a choice. Defund the BBC. Cancel your TV license. They'll try and make it difficult for you, but it is more easy than you think. And don't get sucked back in by the rubbish.
And there's a big difference between I've always been this way. I have always been supportive of having making it a level playing field for everybody, no matter where you come from, who you are, what you believe in. You know, as long as you stick by the law of the land, then you deserve.
Yeah, open opportunities. Yeah, quite right.
Absolutely, fundamentally, has to be adhered to. But when you start making special allowances for special allowances' sake, and you allow preferential treatment, and you're treating more people more favourably than another, then I think that's when it has gone a bit too far. And when you're making allowances that contravene safety in some respects, that lower standards, that lower, interfere with...
compromises safety standards, costs lives, David, as well as costs businesses and jobs. Things went way too far a long, long time ago. America have pivoted back. Finally, America is back, and I have every reason to expect they're going to boom over the next, probably before the end of the year. We're going to see massive changes and a real thriving economy, the end to lots of conflicts that's going to make us positively green with envy, not blue with envy, green with envy here in Britain. I hope our time will come. Again, I don't talk about politics very often. I certainly don't talk about my own personal politics, but I'd like to think I know right from wrong. This had all gone very, very, very wrong. The only way to put it right is by putting aside DEI and letting wokeness lie. It's been bleeding out for some months already. Let it die that natural death. And let's if Russell T Davies wants to sit there sort of cackling away, very self-satisfied, feeling very clever about what he's just posted or that he's told somebody else to F off, leave him to it by all means. Just unfollow him and let him do and say whatever.
And Dan, your viewers are smart people. The very smartest, I'm told. Everyone says so, and I think they should know the truth. which everyone has been saying, is that Russell T. Davies and Phil Collinson, they've been going into these neighborhoods in Cardiff and they've been eating the dogs, eating the cats, eating all the pets. My people tell me it's true. It's all true, and it's sad, very sad.
Yeah, I thought that was worth another play. Considering, thank you again to the Polish Box for that one. Yes, so to be continued. I don't dare. Let's have a look in the live chat and see what people have got to say about us rambling on here, David. Because this is a difficult thing to talk about in some senses. I feel pushed to respond to a lot of this. You got to stand up and be counted, I feel, as an adult. There are still adults in the room. And if we don't say something, we stand a chance that all of this nonsense could happen again. I sincerely hope it's not too late for Britain. I think America has been saved, but certainly that's how it looks. We've got a quote here from Windsor Davies there, courtesy of Rob Alexander. Yeah. Oh dear, how sad, never mind. Windsor Davies as Sergeant Major Williams in It Ain't Half Hot Mom. Fabulous sitcom from back in the 70s. Do you remember that? You're not old enough, are you? Are you?
Oh, of course I am. Lovely boys, lovely boys. Yes, of course I am. Yes, absolutely. I loved it. We loved it. Actually, I do own a copy of Whispering Grass on 7-inch.
So do I.
Estelle.
So do I.
I love that record.
We ought to do that where you and I have a confessional about some of the worst records that we've got, and we can sort of gradually take our standards down lower until see if we can shock the other one with how far we may have sunk with novelty tracks.
if it includes Jive Bunny, I'm dead. So,
oh no, I could go way worse than that.
So can I. But
Adrian Sherlock reminds us that 2005 was 20 years ago. Imagine if season 20, Peter Davison was still using writers from the Hartnell era. It's a good point, Adrian. I've not looked at it like that.
Point. I love that point. That's a very, very good point.
Will Hadcroft reminds, show, don't tell in creative writing. Don't inform the audience, show them. Will should know, fabulous writer. The Adrian says the first Doctor Who I ever saw was a Sontaran experiment. The alien was torturing people, and the Doctor dissolves him and blows up his ship. No, blows up his shift.
Blows his shit up. Yeah.
We're back to Neil Gaiman, aren't we? Danny's right. I agree with everything Adrian Sherlock said. Danny's right. Cancel culture was cruel and people were targeted like a kangaroo court. They absolutely were. People lost their jobs and careers over jokes they did. Thankfully, it seems to all be going the way of all things now. Finally, Adrian, what else have we got in the live chat? We've got a core dedicated number of people here who've been chipping in, including Lord Thoth there. A dedicated moderator. Thanks, Lord Thoth. Thanks, because I did sort of spring this one. Didn't intend on doing this one, particularly with another pun in the title, because we are fixed and concentrated here on our efforts to bring Type 40 Live back to the channel. Obviously, the big live stream that is coming up, it is coming back, and we're back tomorrow night. That's Thursday from 8 p.m. UK time. Abroad in America, we're not quite so sure. I know. We'll get it sorted out, Master. I promise. Is that Neil Gaiman, or is it?
There doesn't appear to be any country life around, so I can't or look. So I'm not sure.
We always like to finish off on a pretty picture. Traditionally, this is not so pretty, but it was sent in by a friend on social media. So this was sent via X. I thought this was horrible, but I think somebody's gone to a lot of effort, so I wanted to get it up on screen anyway. We were tagged in this by Everett Stevens, who says tap and hold and load in 4K. No idea why, but everyone else seems to be posting this. R.I.P. Doctor Who. There, so I think this. So I'm not quite sure, but thanks anyway, Everett. Thanks for tagging us. It's a great picture, very evocative. I think is it meant to be Beelzebub? What do you think, David?
Well, I think it's just Phil Collinson, really.
I think I say Phil Collins then.
Yeah, Phil Collins.
It's in the air tonight.
No. It's in there. Phil Collinson and the rest of the gang taking their turn in their evening attire. It probably means that death comes to time. You don't know. That's a literal meaning,
Could be
and
right.
not the excellent audio involving Sylvester McCoy, but sadly, there does seem to be that growing number of people saying, "Look, I know coming back to your stream on Monday. I think it would benefit from a little bit of a rest, a rethink, and actually, which way do we take this program now, and how do we get it back to the initial concept of the program? Because I think it has become a little bit sort of lost in time. I think it has become a little bit lost with its identity, and so that's actually quite it's a sad graphic, but I think it's a very accurate graphic to determine where the show is at the moment. And that's
Even Tom isn't sure where to go, but he's near enough smiling, isn't he? Near enough smiling.
Yeah.
Thank you for your company on this one, David. Catch up over lunch. I hope to drag you back, hopefully with something a little less contentious next time, something a little cozier, a little more British, that's bumped the topic that we intended on talking about. We'll bump that for another time, if you'll come back again.
I'd love to. And I'm pleased you didn't get me on the subject of the war games, because I did actually have one little ditty that I wanted to say. The colorization.
The war games, the colorized one from a couple of months ago.
All I will say is, isn't it a shame when somebody takes someone's material and re-edits it to create a different meaning from what the original author intended? And that is the whole hoo-ha about, is the war chief the master? Leave it alone. It doesn't need changing. If you want to cut scenes out, absolutely fine. If you want to do this, that, and the other, and make it not make sense in places, or develop your own plot holes, then you may do that. But please don't include things in it that weren't intended to be in it in the original version. That's the one thing I learned very, very quickly as an editor of a magazine, an award-winning magazine. The only year still when I won it, my team when I won it, that my former university won the best magazine nationally of the year. I learned that very harshly as an editor. Do not change the original intention of what the writer or author intended, because it betrays the piece that they've given you and the trust that they've entrusted you to that piece of work.
We do still get comments about the war games, even though it's been a couple of months since that screen. I think it's gone under people's skin a little, and it hasn't sort of broken anything for me. But I do, and generally speaking, I enjoyed the war games in colour. I did, but all that stuff with the master doesn't sit well with me either. I think it's just unnecessary.
Totally.
I don't think it's definite. I don't think they stamp too hard down on it. But the fact that it even enters their minds when they're doing it editorially, I just think it's coming at it from the wrong place. And without opening up a can of worms again. But as always, the comment section, the comment sections are wired. Well, yeah, we've done live streams and things about this already, so I don't want to open it up too much. Yeah. But if you hit up the live streams, you'll see our dedicated reaction show to that. But by all means, let us know, is it still getting under your skin after all these weeks? You can add some comments, and we'll get back to you about that, as well as the words of Russell T Davies there. Well, two very short, sharp words that he had for yet another member of the potential audience for Doctor Who over on social media. Let us know what you think of that in the comments section too. Or, are we taking all this a little bit too seriously? I don't know. This is Type 40. Sincerely, we are the home of free speech and free thinking in Doctor Who podcasting. So, hit us with every opinion that you like in the comments section, by all means. Thanks again to David. And, good luck out there, everybody.
I love that photo. I have to send me that photo. I want that photo on my as a screensaver or something. It's brilliant.
Of course. But the pubs are still open, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. See you in the comments.
Bye-bye.